Alright, y'all, so I'm going to talk about my camera setup for my kayak. So if you're interested in filming from your kayak, I'm going to show you my setup. I'm going to show you things that I did that didn't work. I'm going to share everything with you. This might be a little bit of a long video, but I'm going to share everything so that you can get the most out of it and use that information how you choose to. First, we're going to start with the thing that's probably going to be the most interesting for the most of you, is the DIY rear camera mount deal. This thing is super stable, and so we'll talk about that in detail. We'll talk about what I did before that. We'll talk about how I power everything. We'll talk about audio, not just cameras. I use 3 different cameras. The one I'm filming with now is the Sony ZV-E10 and have some different lenses for it. It is a bigger camera. I mount it up here sometimes on that bad boy. I'll talk about that whole setup. I also run, or I did run, an Osmo Action 4, and I would mount it up here with the mount that's back there at the moment. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about audio, I guess a little bit of lighting, and then of course all the mounts and where you put the cameras and how you power everything, all that stuff. We'll talk about everything. And let's start with this back part. So first things first, rear camera is really important. If you have a camera that's over the shoulder, up high, it can see you, all your casts, everything you're doing. It can see your fish catches. It can see you fighting the fish. It can see you, net the fish. And then if you turn around with the fish, it can even show you looking at the camera, talking to the camera, showing the fish. Now, I like to show the fish and talk to the camera with a camera in the front, and I like to have my audio up front or a lav mic on myself. We'll get into that. But this camera is probably the most important camera. If you only had one, the best one you probably could have is going to be the rear camera. And this right here is a pole that's meant for cameras. So you put it in the track mount back here. That's what that is. And the problem with this is a Railblazer. I think Yak Attack has one too. You kind of have the same issue no matter which one you get, is that sucker waves. You make a cast and the kayak shakes a little, your footage is doing that. It looks like jello. And so it's no good. The footage is no good. It doesn't look good. So you got to stabilize that footage better. So that's how I came up with this bad boy. And so this right here, it's currently downward. Now, what do I mean by it's downward? Well, I got to get in and out of my garage, so it can only be so tall. When this is all the way up, it doesn't fit in my garage. So I have this strap on here, a little bungee. Let me take it down, and then you can see right here, has a hinge. It goes up. It's going to be hard to do with one hand, but I have a latch here. Oh, it's really going to be hard to do. Okay. Oh, I wasn't even filming it. All right. Well, I just latched that one, and then we have one latch on the side. Sorry if I'm not doing the best job filming this. I'm trying to actually latch it. So it's latched up, right? So there it is. Now you can see it's taller, right? And up here, I have it a screw to hook into this guy up here, and that has a female 1/4 inch end underneath, and then there's a bolt that goes in, and your action camera gets bolted in there. Okay, and this is a GoPro Hero 8 Black. Okay, this is a little bit older of a GoPro, and here I have it in the waterproof case, and you'll notice that I don't have a battery inside there. If you can see, it's kind of hard to see. I also have this case for it. So I tend to run the GoPro Hero 8 Black back there. Now, I just went filming and fishing yesterday, and it overheated in 2 hours. So that's an issue I've been dealing with, is my camera's overheating. It is 90 something degrees today in Florida. It is really hot, but 2 hours is just, that's not good. So in my other camera, the Osmo Action 4, it actually melted. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is how you mount the rear camera. And you can see I painted this orange. I put my flag on it. Now I do still have my flag that has the light on it. I thought about putting the light on here as well. I might still end up doing that. But for now, I bring the light with me. Once the light, sun rises, I just put my light down so it's not in the way of the camera shot. But let me talk about how this is mounted. So a lot of kayaks, a lot of your better kayaks, this is an Old Town Autopilot 120, have like female inserts. I don't know if it's 1/4 inch, but they have female inserts, and it's for putting a micro power pole usually, but you can mount other things. And this might void some sort of warranty putting something on this. This is pressure treated wood. It's a lot of wood. It's a lot of weight. It can be a lot of stress on this area. I've been using it for a while now, and there's no issues. But just so you know, maybe you don't want to use as much wood, or maybe you don't want to do this design at all. But let me just tell you how to go about it if you decide to. So I took a piece of poster board. I cut it out so that it's about that size. I took a pencil, I scribbled, and I made it. It kind of showed me on the poster board where the 4 holes are. So then I took that poster board, I put it on this piece of pressure treated wood. I marked my holes with it. Then I drilled the holes, and then I put these pieces of pressure treated wood right here, because I knew the depth of the holes plus the depth of this, plus the depth of this piece right here matched my stainless steel height of my bolts. So I had it at the right height I wanted. Now you'll see this one is centered. This one is a little off center. Now the reason for that is I wanted these two to squeeze in there kind of perfectly. So these two squeeze in there perfectly, and then I run screws, decking screws, so that they don't rust, into this piece that go into this piece. And I did the same thing on the other side, so that these are all, everything is connected to one another. And then 2 into this extra piece into here, 2 more up here into this piece. So it's really stable here at the base, and then you can see it thins up and goes to that piece, and we have our hinge right above that. You can decide for yourself how high you want the camera. Hold your camera up there, look down, maybe at someone sitting in the seat. Maybe they stand up out of the seat. You see, how they're framed in the shot, and you go, okay, this is how high I want it. And then you measure it, and then you decide for yourself. This is the height I decided to do. I could have went taller, I could have went shorter, and it would still probably look good. So that is that. Okay, I painted it orange real quick. I had extra spray paint just so I'm a little more visible in the water, and I felt like this was kind of going to be in the way of my flag, so I added the flag to it. Now, powering the GoPro while it's in that back area. So like I was saying, we do not have a battery inside our GoPro because it's easier to overheat the GoPro. Well, this right here is a nice little battery. It has USBs and Type-C, and I have 4 of these, and one of these will power 6 hours on a big camera, So I have 4 of them. I can run all my cameras for 2 days. Nice little battery. I have this little guy right here. If we open this, actually, if we take off the whole thing, if I take a socket to that, I actually have a bolt for the track, like the actual bolts that you use in the tracks. If I loosen that, I can take this whole thing off, and I can move it somewhere else or slide it around. So I bring a little socket with me, but usually I never have to move it. And it runs power up to the camera. Now what I used to do, this is my old 100 amp hour battery. I bring it along as an extra. I have another 100 amp hour, so I'm on the water with 200 amp hours. I should never run out of power. But I have these 2 USB ports on this older one. Well, I used to run long cords up to it, and then long cords up to my other power. Well, I end up melting my one camera. I don't know if it was that or if it was the cords itself. I'm not sure what happened. It's a new camera, the DJI Osmo Action 4. So it could be the camera, because a few days before I got this camera, they had a firmware update. Maybe they don't have all the kinks out of that firmware update. I don't know, but probably hard to tell. But that right there got melted, and that's where your power goes into. And I had a DJI adapter right here that plugged into it. So it was a DJI product plugged into a DJI product, and it allowed me to run my shotgun mic, a Rode Video Micro, on this camera and run continuous power to it. And you'll notice I do not keep a battery in it. If I'm running continuous power, not having batteries in it will allow it to not overheat in theory. And this right here, if I use that stand right there but change out the top, I can put this camera on here. That's what I was doing when I had the other battery powering everything. And actually, this isn't stable, okay? But this right here is stable up front with that camera, okay? So the Osmo Action 4 is actually, I got it because it's supposed to be really steady. It looks really good. The shots look really good from right here. Looking, it's like, you know, a cockpit shot where you're in the cockpit and you can see, you know, me hold fish and talk. The shots look really good. I can run a good mic to it, continuous power, and it didn't last though. It didn't last long at all. And now I have to go through the whole process of hopefully getting my money back, because I don't want to buy another one just to do that again. But it might have been my cords were faulty or something, but they've always powered everything else just fine. So I couldn't tell you exactly the culprit, but I think it's worth sharing. Okay, but that camera looks good right here, and it's stable just with the PVC. Okay, so, you know, in the future, if I decide to get rid of this, because I am probably going to go to a new setup, which is why I wanted to film this before I go to a new setup, I may still keep this on here because it's just so practical. But at the same time, if something like this, or even if I bring a triangle or three-way off of it and then double it up so that it's even more stable, if that ends up being my camera mount back here instead of this guy, then, you know, awesome. Now, you do have to worry about PVC making noise, so I will say that. But right now, I'm going to keep that in the back, you know, but I could understand how you may want to not mount something into the kayak, even though things are meant to be mounted there. If you decide to make your own thing, I think, you know, getting bolts that are intended for the track mounts and doing a PVC deal could be good for you, especially if you use a DJI Mic 2. So it's a lav mic system. I have those as well, and that's kind of what I've been trying to use lately, but they only last so long before you have to switch them out, and so there's kind of issues with using that audio system. I like the shotgun mic system on the front camera, but again, this overheated and melted, and here I have a big camera fluid head. So there's a dry storage area right here, and there's screws that go into it. Well, I removed those screws and I did the poster board deal, same thing I did for the back, and I marked the holes. And then I got wood, I drilled the holes, and I bolted wood to those holes. So I didn't screw anything into the kayak, and then all this other wood is attached to that wood, you know, so it's all connected just like the other thing. And then I took an old, right here, an old light stand, cut it, and then this screw right here is meant to go into metal and connect to wood. So it's going through the wood and into the screw, and this isn't going anywhere, and I can actually loosen these up, and this can actually go really high up if I want it to, but it'll be in the way of the fishing if I were to do that. So that's really as high as it goes, and we can adjust this fluid head to get a different angle and turn it if we need to. But the big camera goes up here if I decide to, but I don't like the footage of the big camera when it's up front. I think the action cameras look a lot better, but the audio from the action camera is not so great. And I don't want to run a big camera up here just for audio. That's kind of a lot. That's a lot of footage. But I do like using the shotgun mics. I think it helps a lot. Again, you can take this information, use it how you want to. And what I did do, now I had a different case right here. This is actually mounted to the track. And I had a thing that will hold my lav mic, my DJI mic 2. And so I actually put it on here. So when I'm talking from here, it catches all the audio without it being on my chest. So you can put the DJI Mic 2 on your chest. Now, the very first time I fished with the DJI Mic 2, literally the very first cast I made, it fell off and went into the water and I lost it. And it's $100 for one of those. And I didn't even realize what, I was like, what was that noise? and then once I realized it, I was like, are you serious? And so I actually had to buy another one. So I have the DJI Mic 2 still, but it's a little tricky. I put a slit in my shirt and then attach it to it so it doesn't fall out, but I'm still not 100% that won't fall off at some point. So if you have a place you can mount the mic near you that you're not going to hit, that's not going to pick up a bunch of noise that you don't want it to, but it will pick up your voice, that could be a good option for you. Now, I do think a shotgun mic is the way to go if you can power it effectively. Right now, my best way to power it is on the big camera up here. But when I do that, of course, the footage doesn't look as good. Now, right now, I'm not using the Osmo Action 4 because I'm going through the process of, I gotta do the process of returning that bad boy. An action camera up front, an action camera up back is really the way to go. Now, if you only wanted one camera, there's also the Insta360 stuff. It's more work, I believe, to like, but they do it, you can do it in a way where like, if you position your camera effectively, you could have the footage where it shows you cast and you see yourself casting, and you can turn the footage and see, you know, where it landed, and then see you fighting the fish, and you can turn the footage back towards you. But you have to edit all that, I believe. You know, it's not going to just do it. So it's more work, but it's kind of an interesting thing. And if you set that camera up effectively, I think that could be really cool and have some really cool shots. There's also the Insta360 Pro. I just feel like it may be a hair better than the Action 4, but it's not worth the price difference. And this doesn't overheat. I know I melted it, but I think that was something else, because I know someone that has this camera and we go out and film all day long. He doesn't have any issues. So I think it was just how this camera was being powered, but you got to power it. And I was running a shotgun mic to it. So I think it was really more of the adapter and the DJI adapter for the mic and for power, along with the cords that I was using, and maybe even that lithium battery powering it. If anyone knows, if anyone's an electrician and knows what that issue is, by all means share below. We would all love to know. I know I would love to know. right now, I think my power source is going to be these guys, and I'm going to avoid that stuff. Now, if they only will replace this, then I can see if that power source uh, will power it without any issues. Otherwise, I don't know what to tell you there. But I'm actually exploring the possibility of starting to live stream my fishing. It's post spawn. It's 1,000 degrees in Florida. The fishing can get pretty tough. A long day of fishing and me catching 4 or 5 fish. I don't know if everyone's going to be interested in that, but we can give it a shot and see how people take to that. I might have it on YouTube. I might have it on TikTok. I might have it on both. We'll give it a shot and see what everyone thinks. Maybe I'm still looking at it because like I noticed there's this thing you can put on your phone that will cool your phone down so your phone doesn't overheat. Well, I also have cracks on the back of my case on my phone, so I actually have to get that fixed first. And then on top of that, I noticed that cooling thing runs off Bluetooth, and the DJI Mic 2s I can connect with the phone and have good audio while I'm filming, but they also run off Bluetooth. So I'm not sure what I would do there. And then of course we have to get a nice holder for the phone, and whatever power running to the phone, we're gonna have to make something where it's all kind of connected. And then I might have to add something to the phone, whereas if it falls off by accident, it catches on something, it doesn't go anywhere, or something to that effect, so that we don't lose our phone. And yeah, so we got to worry about overheating, we got to worry about Bluetooth connections, we got to worry about audio. So I'm exploring the idea of live streaming my fishing, and if we end up starting to do that and we like it's working well for us, there's a lot of ifs there, but if that happens, then I'll probably take this away, and I may even take that back thing away if we're not filming over our shoulder or we're using a PVC attachment for over the shoulder. So we're making our way towards possibly doing that. We're looking into the idea, and I just thought, well, if I end up doing that, I need to share this before I end up removing this stuff. So there you go. I hope this was helpful, and I'm out.